Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
This is Science for Humans with Dr. Jeff Galini.
Welcome back, Dr. Jeff.
How you doing, Carl?
Wonderful, wonderful. So, I've been waiting for you to do a show like this. I have to tell you the truth. You were a champion professional bodybuilder. You were a champion world record holder in powerlifting. And we've talked about vitamins and minerals and all that sort of stuff. And I've been waiting for you to bring something to the table that you have really excelled in and that the audience will love to hear more about. And that's your training style.
I think I spend so much time being a scientist that I actually forget that I used to be an athlete.
Yes.
So many people have, sent me emails and tweets and all that stuff, saying, hey, when are you going to talk about training? How do you get big legs? We saw your videos. And I thought, I guess, it's time to talk about a little bit of leg training.
So when you went from powerlifting to bodybuilding, did your leg training style change?
It did. When I was a powerlifter, there was one thing on my mind was how much could I do one time? But I always bodybuilded. Even before when I was playing football, I used to read Arnold Schwarzenegger's Education of a Bodybuilder. I used to take that into the gym. People thought it was crazy, but I kind of incorporated doing reps. So I remember going to my first Ohio State powerlifting meet. It was about 79.
How old were you at the time?
I was probably 18 or 19.
Okay.
Now, prior to that, I had entered powerlifting contests during high school because we had a lifting team and, we competed against other high schools. And I was so far ahead of those guys because we had been powerlifting essentially since we were, 7th grade. But I remember going in there, I didn't even know about knee wraps or suits or anything. Now, I had always wore a belt, but I remember going in there and I think I did, 500 or 600 pounds. And all these old timers were looking at me going, you are crazy. I mean, how do you do that? No knee wraps, no nothing. And I'm watching these guys with, suits and wraps and smelling salts.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was a pretty good education.
What you're talking about, for those who don't know what we're talking about, the smelling salts, a lot of powerlifters will use amyl nitrate. It's a very, very strong ammonia smelling, and when you sniff it, they call them whippets or snappers. They call them. And they wake you up. They open your sinuses up. They open your brain up. It's like you get a rush from it.
Oh yeah, I always had smelling salts after that, in my bag, especially when I started bodybuilding. Leg day, you would see me before each heavy set. I would take a sniff of the salts in the little container.
Right.
And then when I would get to the big ones, I would actually bust one of those caps.
Right.
Remember the old bust? I mean, that one just about knocked you back. But yeah, so my training did change. When I started to incorporate into bodybuilding and I thought, I've got to get more shape and more depth to my legs. One of the things I realized is most people, their hamstrings were like an afterthought. Everybody would do squats and hit calves or, hit quads. And then whatever they had left over, they'd go do some hamstrings. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do my hamstrings first. So my recommendation is blast your hamstrings first because it's interesting. When you go to squat, the blood is all in those hamstrings. I mean, my hamstrings used to bounce off my calves. I mean, that's how full they would be.
Wow.
And that's why I developed a really good-looking leg because I had big hamstrings.
Interesting. That's really an interesting idea. That people, you're right. Most people, they focus on the squat movements or the leg presses, and hamstrings are an afterthought.
Oh, I watch guys at the gym now and gals. I mean, they're leg pressing, they're squatting, they're hack squatting, they're extension. And then usually they go home or they'll run over to, a seated leg curl and do 3 sets.
Right.
And it's like, first of all, you're going to probably pull a hamstring. but you're not going to have that pretty thick, shapely leg. So I like lying hamstring extensions, good old fashioned lay down on the bench, and pull it up, controlled. Don't go so heavy that, you're hooping and hopping and arching all over the place. Keep everything really controlled. Keep that tension on the muscle. Come all the way up. On my lighter ones, I like to squeeze at the top and come down slow. And, 5, 6, 7 sets. I mean, until you can't do anymore. You shouldn't get into, well, I'm only going to do 3 or 4. If you haven't worked that muscle, then do some more.
What do you think about stiff leg deadlifts for hamstrings? But just not coming all the way up, just the bottom 2/3 of the movement.
I never liked that exercise because I thought it always put so much strain on the lower back that, personally, I always got a great workout off of the lying, and then now they make the seated hamstring, which I then go on to that, and I'll finish up with that. So, after you've done about 10 or 12 sets, 10 plus reps, I mean, if you can add more weight, you continue to add weight. I always like to start with kind of a warm-up, get the blood flowing, and then continually add weight until I get to that max where, I'm having trouble dishing out 10 or 12. Your hamstring should be spent. And again, if you like stiff-legged deadlifts or, some of the other exercises that I see people do, that's great. But to me, these are kind of the mass builders that really help you concentrate on that muscle.
So you're talking about a lot of volume. If you're talking about upwards of 10 reps per set, and you're talking about 8 to 10 sets, right?
Right.
I mean, that absolutely has to make your hamstrings grow.
Oh, they do. They will. I mean, they just curl up. You got this big watermelon on the back of your leg. If you're a guy, if you're a gal, you have a little cantaloupe,
Yeah.
Depending on, but again, handle some weight. And then about every, 4th workout or something, I would get some force reps in where, when I got to those heavier sets, I would have my training partner bring that weight up for me, and then I would bring it down slowly, and I would have him push on it. So I'd have to hold that back. I mean, putting all that tension on that muscle. I had learned several years ago, there were these, you remember the muscle stimulators that used to hook up the electronic?
The electric ones. They still sell them, TENS units. Yeah, yeah.
Not the cheap ones. There were some really good ones that came out of Russia that I actually had the opportunity to use. And I realized that if electrical current could stimulate a contraction, and I actually put 2 inches on my quads using one of these, that I needed to be in more control while I was training. It wasn't the amount of weight. It was the fact that you were putting resistance. I remember Tom Platz used to say that anything from 1 to 15 reps is worthless. It's after the 15th rep when you're really starting to struggle. That's when the muscle starts to grow.
Right. Okay, so that's the hamstrings first. So give hamstring priority. Then where do you go from there?
Then you're going to go in and start working the quads. So I like to just get on the seated extensions, just do some light ones, just to kind of warm the knees up, get the blood flowing, because right now we got all the blood in the back of the legs. And then, for the heavy lift, squats. And, I like to go, this is where I incorporated my powerlifting. I didn't do that, that narrow stance. I mean, I went pretty wide, about shoulder width, just like you would sitting down in a chair. And I would start with 135, and that would be my first set. Now with squats, I would again do, 10 to 15 reps. But my philosophy was that I would always only add a 45-pound weight. If I couldn't do the next one 10 times, then there's no way I'm going to add, a 135 and a 5.
Right.
I didn't even use 5s or 10s or 20s. I mean, again, let's put some weight on. So literally, I would wait till I could add another 45-pound on each side to move up to that. If I couldn't go up to the next one, then I would continue to work there until my strength built up where I could actually go up to the next plate.
So would you add sets or reps at that weight, or both, in order to progress to another 45-pound plate?
I would just add reps. So if I could barely get 10 reps at 225 and I put 315 on there and I can only do 4 or 5, then I wasn't quite ready. So I would continue to work at that 225 until my strength and my endurance build up where I could then move up to that 315. Okay. Now, that's not to say that sometimes we had fun and we would, you need to try and get your shoulders used to that weight.
Right.
So the way I did that is I would go into a the boxes where you could actually put the pins where you could get under the weight and you could literally lift it up 3 or 4 inches. This is kind of my powerlifting background, is I then would put 405. I'm only at 225 now, but I got to get used to feeling what 405 feels like. So I would go to 405 and I would just push it 2 or 3 inches just again to get my back, my shoulders, everything used to handling that kind of weight. And then when I was ready to actually try that as a squat, again, I would be kind of adjusted. And
you knew what it felt. Yeah, mentally you knew what it felt like by now.
Yeah, because that's the hardest thing is, when you start to put some weight on a squat and you've never done it, your mind says, oh my goodness, this is a lot of weight. What happens if I fall? Well, I already knew what that weight felt like. It was just now of a matter of how many reps can I get.
Right.
And always knee wraps, always use knee wraps. Too many lifters these days, I hear things like, well, if you use knee wraps, you don't get a swoop to your quad or your hamstrings won't grow. That's rubbish. Knee wraps save your knees. Again, something very important I learned from powerlifting. I saw Lou Ferrigno, Schwarzenegger, they all wrap their knees. Now there's different styles of knee wraps. Some of the new powerlifting are really, really thick. So you got to make sure you find a gauge that you can wear long enough to do reps. So I have like 5 sets of knee wraps.
Oh, wow.
Some of them are real thin that, you can basically wear the whole workout. So they're great for doing reps. But then I got the real thick ones because, when I start to get up into that heavy weight, again, I want to keep my knees, supported and safe. So, you crank those things on and there is a pattern. One of these days, I think I'm going to do a video and show people how to wrap knees.
Because you got to get that open spot at the front of the knee, right?
Yeah, and you need to wrap and then crisscross back and forth.
Right.
It's kind of like taping. Most trainers know how to tape an ankle. So it's the same thing. You're just giving some support to that joint, taking the pressure off your knee and putting it on the quad. That's how you build.
Because if you don't know how to wrap a knee, you can actually hurt the knee. If you wrap the knee wrong, you can actually force the joint to separate as you come down into that 90-degree position. You can pull the synovial capsule apart. So it's important to know how to wrap a knee if you're going to start using knee wraps, right?
Absolutely. A lot of people I see, they just like start at the top, kind of like ace bandage, and they just wrap it down and tuck it. And that's the wrong way because that's going to give just enough to separate that knee. And actually, you'd be better off not using wraps, wrapping it. When you cover the knee up once, you then have to crisscross back and forth like an X. But you got to pull it tight too. They're not the most comfortable. You got to kind of get used to wearing those things. But they'll add, 30, 40, 50 pounds onto your squat.
Right.
Which again helps you build bigger legs.
I want to take a break, and when we come back, I want to talk about other movements that you incorporate into your leg training, or if you do incorporate other movements into your leg training, and where we go from there. We're talking with Dr. Jeff Gallini. He is my co-host here at Science for Humans, but we're kind of changing it up today, and he's talking about the type of leg training that made him a professional bodybuilder and a world record powerlifter. And keep in mind, the ladies that are listening to the show, this kind of training will not make your legs bulky. It will make your legs shapely. It will make your legs look great. It will get rid of the smoothness to your legs and give it the types of curves just in the right places where you want it. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Science for Humans. Do you know how to properly use carbohydrates to ignite your performance in the field and in the gym? You will now, thanks to this free book by EFX Sports. The Carb User's Guide for Maximum Performance reveals why omitting carbohydrates from your diet can totally crush your gains. Ever wonder how many grams you need for your specific sport? Not anymore. We give you the critical number you need to dominate your competition. You'll even discover the super carb that's taking the athletic world by storm. You must try it to believe it. Go to getcarbolin.com/carb guide today and get your copy absolutely free. Once again, it's GetCarbolyn.com/CARBGUIDE. The secret word is resveratrol. Email that in to onair@superhumanradio.com to be entered for this week's Secret Word Contest. And good luck.
At RUI-products.com, we offer the most accurately dosed high-quality peptides and research chemicals for all your laboratory needs. RUI-products.com is one of the oldest names in the business. Find out why the scientific community trusts RUI-products.com to provide the best products for your research. Click the banner ad on superhumanradio.com today and use the discount code SUPER15 and get 15% off our already competitive prices. If you're going to do research, do it with the best. RUI-products.com. For the best in real world, no nonsense, result producing and effective strength training, muscle building, and physical culture information, read Brooks Kubik's books and courses. Don't delay. Sprint on over to brookskubik.com and choose from more than a dozen of the best books and courses on the market. Brooks Kubik's training advice has been building strength, transforming physiques, and changing lives for more than 25 years. If you prefer ebooks, look for Brooks Kubik's best-selling courses at Amazon's Kindle bookstore. Show your support for Physical Culture Radio by going to brookskubik.com right now.
Bluebird Botanicals sources only the highest quality CBD extracts from hemp. CBD is a non-psychoactive, all-natural constituent used to bolster general health. Bluebird Botanicals performs third-party testing, has invested in state-of-the-art manufacturing equipment, delivers nationwide, and possesses industry-leading customer service. To get CBD delivered to your front door, go to superhumanradio.com, click the Bluebird Botanicals banner ad, and save 25% off with code SHR25. Bluebird Botanicals, setting the standard for CBD oil and extracts.
The health and performance benefits of phytonutrients are indisputable, but getting all of your phytonutrients from your diet is difficult. That's why Prime Nutrition introduced PhytoForm. PhytoForm has nearly 11 grams of all the micronized veggies, fruits, fiber, minerals, and antioxidants you need. Alfalfa, organic spirulina, and chlorella, plus acai, pomegranate, goji, bilberry, blueberry, raspberry, cranberry, and papaya. Cabbage, spinach, broccoli, beet, the list goes on and on. You won't find a better, more complete fruits and greens blend anywhere. It even includes PQQ, which has been shown to improve mitochondrial biogenesis. Go to superhumanradio.com and click the Prime Nutrition banner ad today and use coupon code SHR to save 30% off. Prime Nutrition, the best or nothing.
Ever feel like you want something crunchy? From the company that gave us the Quest protein bar, now comes the Quest high protein potato chips with 21 grams of high quality protein and only 5 grams of carbs and no artificial ingredients. Just like Quest bars, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to superhumanradio.com and click the Quest high protein potato chip banner ad today and get ready to be satisfied. Thanks to Quest Nutrition, chips just aren't what they used to be.
AnabolicMinds.com is the premier website for credible information on building muscle, burning fat, supplementation, and more. With over 100,000 active registered members and over 2.5 million posts, it's one of the largest communities on the internet to get help and answers to your questions. It's also the place that the official Superhuman Radio Forum is hosted. Visit AnabolicMinds.com today and get into the action. AnabolicMinds.com. Learn, teach, lead.
This is the Superhuman Channel. Evolution just got kicked up a notch.
Foxy lady. Welcome back to Science for Humans. Today the discussion, kiddies, is the science of building beautiful legs. If you're a guy, that means big old honking hamstrings and quads. And if you're a woman, it's shapely. Calves, quads, and hamstring. So what about calves, Dr. Jeff? Or is there more to be done after the squats?
Yeah, after the squats, then move on to hack squats. I'd like to do about 5 sets. Again, 10 to 15 reps, always adding weight, just a little bit different angle. That way, if my quads weren't burnt from squats, you go again. I'm gonna continue. What you got to remember is you are on your legs all day long, so your legs can handle a lot of weight and need a lot of weight in order to actually build. After that, I'd go to seated leg extensions, and again, turn the toes in slightly, squeeze at the top, handle as much weight as you can, and again, about 5-6 sets, and again, always a minimum of 10 reps to 15 reps. Then, your upper legs are done. Now you got to take a little bit of carbolin and move on to the calves. Because again, calves are kind of an oversight. People don't like to train them. They're tired. But you got to mentally remember that each part of your leg, you've got to take seriously. If you don't have enough gas left, go home and come back later in the day and do calves. You know, I had enough time because, you know, mentally I was prepared. I would fuel myself properly. And even like now, literally, I would take some Carbolin, wait a couple minutes, and then move on to the calves. I like standing calves, you know, where you've got the harness on your shoulder, the weights. And again, toes in, pigeon-toed, toes out, you know, kind of put the emphasis on different parts of the calf. Now, again, you really got to hit those calves because you're walking on them all day long. So calves are something you can't do lightweight, you know, 10 reps. So calves, I would put as much weight as I could handle. And again, 25, 30 reps. You know, my first 10 or 15 would be slow, and then I would go, you know, up and down fast just to really...
and your calves burn when you train them right. They burn.
Yeah. And every once in a while, you know, back in the old days, we used to like doing the old donkey calves. It was just more for show, where you get a couple guys to come sit on your back, and you'd bend over, and it'd be like riding a horse, and then you'd, go up and down with your calves.
What about seated calves for the soleus? Obviously, standing calves are supposed to focus on the gastrocnemius muscle, which is that big round muscle that everybody wants. And the soleus muscle goes from the, let's say, the ankle to the back of the knee, and it's more of a long, flat slab. Do you like seated calf work for that purpose?
Absolutely. That would be the next thing. Then now you can sit down. The workout is about done. And I would finish up with, again, about 5 sets of those seated calves, doing the same thing, toes straight forward, and then toes in and then toes out. I would just rotate those. Okay.
So how often would you train your legs, Dr. Jeff, if you're using this type of this is a very high volume. We're talking about 5, 8 sets of everything. We're talking about upwards of 10 reps of everything. This is a monster leg day. It's going to take you probably an hour and a half if you're doing it right. How often would you hit your legs this way?
When I was doing it for a profession, I trained 3 days on, 1 day off. So the first day was back and bis, the second day was chest and tris, and then the third day was legs, day off, and it would start over. So essentially, twice a week, you would be hitting legs. So if you're serious, again, you can hit it up to twice a week. If you're not really competing, you just want to, be in shape, then I would recommend just doing it once a week.
Spread it out a little bit more, maybe.
Yeah, keep some time in between. You never want to hit the same body part, 2 days in a row, or even like every other day. You got to give it
72 hours, I think, is the magic number that evolved back in the day at Venice Beach from a lot of scientific research. They said you can't hit a muscle again until it has had 72 hours of rest. Do you subscribe to that idea?
I do. I used to go, like I said, 4 days. Well, that would be about 72. 3 on, 1 off. Yeah. So I do. Back when we first started training, we used to do upper body 3 days a week and lower body twice a week. But then on our upper body days, we do deadlifts, and, it was just so much overtraining. So you got to be careful not to overtrain. And again, plan your workouts out. Just don't go into the gym with the mentality of, I'm just going to do whatever I feel like, because normally you're not going to do what you need to do. I always had my workouts planned, so I knew what I was going to do. And if I got in there and I just wasn't feeling heavy on the squat, it didn't matter. It wasn't about how much weight I could handle that day. It was about how much I could bomb my legs. So, again, plan your workouts out and be safe, be controlled. Use a weightlifting belt, don't be sloppy. That's where you're going to get hurt. And don't, skip. Don't not do your hamstrings or not do your calves, because as you strengthen certain muscles, if you don't work on those other muscles, you're going to have an injury.
Yeah, because you have imbalances, and then the muscle becomes very strong in one area, and then you end up injuring yourself.
And don't be like a lot of guys at my gym. Hopefully no one out there is like that only does upper body, and they got these huge upper bodies, and they got these little skinny poles. Not that it looks bad, but it's dangerous. I mean, you could pull a hamstring doing curls. You know, you really have to develop your whole body if you're going to lift.
We call that when a guy looks like that, it looks like he's riding a chicken. We'll say, look at that guy, he's riding a chicken, because his upper body is massive, and then he's got these little girly legs coming out of his shorts.
It's more for safety, I mean, you're going to get hurt. I saw a guy, oh man, he probably's got 20-inch arms, a little bit of body fat, but just this huge upper chest. And he pulled a quad muscle bench pressing.
Really?
But, he never did his legs. I mean, and here he was, arching and wiggling his legs around, and bap, pulled something and, was out for 6 weeks.
Well, do you believe that old notion that if you train your legs, your upper body will get bigger anyway because of the overall strength that you build from training your legs?
Ask me what my number one favorite exercise of all time is if I can only do one exercise.
What is your number one favorite exercise of all time if you could only do one exercise, Dr. Jeff?
Squat.
Yeah, huh?
Because that builds everything. You talk about core, forget those fluffy blue balls.
Balance ball. Yeah, I know.
I had a physical trainer here recently from the hospital tell me that my core was weak because I don't go on the ball. I said, you know what? My core is not weak. If you can handle what I can handle on the squat, then your core is good. We might have a different impression about, strengthening core. Nothing against all that balls and all those things. But, again, that squat, you got to handle weight. So, you're using your stomach and your core. So again, you've got to develop your stomach muscles, your lower back. I mean, all that is important for being a professional athlete, whether you're football, basketball, powerlifter, bodybuilder.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. And are you still giving away Carbolin samples?
I'm always giving away Carbolin samples.
Yeah, you're like Santa Claus, right?
People just write in and say, hey, they're now saying, can I just get a sample?
Get samples. I saw that. Can I get some samples?
I thought, that's the way it is. Anyone who wants anything, I got tons of Carbolin, tons of Crealclin. Again, if you haven't tried it, you'd need to, because if you're going to do a leg workout like this, you need to be fueled before you go into the gym, and then you're going to need to fuel yourself midway, or else you will not be able to make it through.
Yeah, so there you go. Go to superhumanradio.com. On the bottom right-hand side, you'll see a banner ad that says Ask the Scientist. Instead of asking him a question, ask him for some free samples, and you'll get some Carbolin, and then you'll try this leg workout without it, and then you'll try it with it, and you'll never go without Carbolin again. Coach Wade Johnson, he is an elite powerlifter. I believe he totaled 2,600 when he was lifting. His top squat was 1,040. And he takes Carbolin before every workout now. He said it's a game changer for old guys like us. He was joking with me.
Yeah.
He said, he goes, I don't hit the wall at all anymore, he goes.
And the other thing is, you found out yesterday, Carl, I am now taking advantage of all this social media.
I know.
I'm going to be putting this leg workout in writing. So anyone who's interested in getting, this leg workout, I don't know, I'm going to put it somewhere, Facebook or, you'll find it.
We're going to have links on the Superhuman Radio website to Dr. Jeff's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. This weekend we're putting the links up there. It'll be right there where his banner ad is for Ask the Scientist. You'll see ways to connect with him. So connect with him and take advantage of all of his knowledge as a professional bodybuilder in the day, which was considered the golden era of bodybuilding, the era where Arnold Schwarzenegger, all these Franco Columbu, all these guys came from Southern California, where Dr. Jeff was training too. So leverage his intelligence and his information. Take advantage of it. Dr. Jeff, thanks for everything that you do for this show.
You're welcome. It was fun kind of changing it up here today.
Yeah, I like this. Let's do chest next time.
You got it, man.
Okay, good deal. Talk to you next week.